Nice earphones.
And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer 7 of the questions of why. This Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because I got pissed off with people who didn't want to talk in a nice, civil tone of voice. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble pretty much everywhere. Shujin. It's really hard to miss me if you could just go searching for that. Let me go ahead and introduce you to everybody. And yeah, we've got a guest that almost fell into our lap. Top left-hand corner of the bingo card. Dalan, welcome for the last time from your current domain.
Yes. By the next time I'm on this show, I will be in a completely different place.
But by domain, he means domicile.
Whatever. Look at the bright side.
You got to look at the age and era that we're dealing with here.
Yes, I know. By the time we get to see him again, home will not be 127.0.0.1. Wait, no. Yeah, that's the way it's going to work, isn't it? We'll give you an IP6 at that point. How's that? You feel better? Try to memorize that one.
Yeah, you know what? I have the certification courses and all that stuff to get IPv6 certified and all that. I took one look at it and went, you know what? Am I going to get paid extra for? Am I going to get paid more for knowing this? No. Okay, it's compartmentalized for. I'll worry about it later.
Put it on a slide rule for you somewhere.
Yeah, much later.
Over here towards the East Coast, just north of me in Ontario. Good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning.
Midwest of the U.S. Good evening, Brigid.
Good evening.
South me into Pittsburgh. Good morning, Joey. Nice of you to make it.
Hi, y'all heard me earlier. I showed up just in time simply because we had a bit of an emergency.
What did the dog do now?
Well, she pooped on the floor, but that we cleaned up.
Not that kind of emergency.
No.
Yeah, was it anything that involved incendiaries?
No, it was very similar to the dog issue, just different. We ran out of toilet paper, and it is cold and wet. It is cold and wet outside.
Ew.
So that was a long walk to the 7-Eleven.
There you go. Just outside of, why the hell does he still have a job known as Washington, D.C.? Good morning, UnrenownedTech.
He still has a job because the last thing you want to hear is, please welcome to the stage President Pence.
There is something to be said for that.
Good old Taliban Mike.
And joining us for not the first time, Dave motherfucking Foda. Okay, so the question on everybody's mind is, of course, why did the judge sentence you again to be on this show?
I volunteered. It's part of community service.
Fair enough.
Well,
community service?
I would hate to see what the alternative would have been to doing this.
I can't tell if it's just the shade or the pixelation, but are you rocking a stash?
Yep.
Full circle beard. But I had actually shaved the chin to try and let it come down. But apparently my hair growth ability doesn't like my decision. So I'm kind of having trouble with this right here.
So just kind of rocking the good old handlebars then.
No, handlebars would come out to the side.
Joseph has handlebars when he grows it.
By the way, to
Joseph
answer
has
Heretic
handlebars.
Woman's question, if he wasn't here, I hear that there is this faith healer over Skype that can make like tingly fingers happen.
Yes.
I have to correct you, Heretic Woman.
Yes.
Joseph does not have handlebars.
Not anymore.
Joseph is rocking, last I checked, Joseph is rocking the Snidely Whiplash. Thank you very much.
Well, okay. Well, I wasn't here last week, so I don't know what he has. Well, you didn't make it last week either, so I don't know what he has right now.
Oh, shoot.
Yes.
You'd be delighted to know, in my searching for a list for last night's show, I found a list we could do for tonight, or at least read off like the titles and stuff.
Oh God.
You can kind of fill me in on a little bit of that afterwards. We'll see what happens. So yeah, Dave's going to be with us tonight, basically because we got the opportunity of talking a couple of nights ago, and Dave had made some points that I thought were worth discussing, and basically said, "Look, why don't you come on and talk? Because, well, why not? Plus, I didn't have anybody lined up, and lowest common denominator." Judge's orders. I figured, kill 3 birds with 1 stone, since he's no Neil deGrasse Tyson, and well, he doesn't return my calls. Do you know how many?
I think he blocks your number at this point.
I'd be worried about a restraining order at this point.
No, because you know what it's like war dialing all of Brooklyn. It takes some time. I'm still kind of working through some of those, but I'll get around to it eventually.
Well, if you tell the people over in Russia that there's money involved, and if they can get a hold of his number for you, quickly split.
See, that would be funny if it wasn't so accurate. Yeah.
When you're looking for somebody specifically in the phone book, I might recommend, starting at maybe T rather than A.
I'm not going through the phone book. I'm war dialing. Did you not? Okay, this is going to be one of those opportunities. All those times you gave me shit about all the movies I didn't see, did you see the original, not the remake, the original War Games?
Wait, they remade it?
Is this with the kid who...
They made a sequel to the original War.
No. They redid it.
Is this with the kid who stumbled across like a...
Whopper.
Government program? I saw it a very, very long time ago.
Vindicated. That's me.
They made the 1983, which was the original.
And
then they made a sequel to it, which ended up having the old computer fight the new version of itself.
I thought it was just a redo. Okay.
No, it wasn't a redo. It was a sequel. It was the same concept, but in this case, the new supercomputer had to learn the same lesson that the old one did by actually fighting against the old one.
Great. So this is MNR7 all over again. There's like a handful of people that actually get that reference who are just like, whoa, dude, blowback. Yeah, 1966, whatever, it doesn't matter. We got stuff to do. And unfortunately, my nuke machine is not doing real good. It did not heat up my coffee tonight real well.
Uh-oh.
How do I know that? Well, partly because the inside of my mouth is not raw, and the hot chocolate mix that I usually put in there, still little pockets of dry. That's not really fun. Although, if you're looking for a chocolate hit, that's so much fun, but... No, that's not a good thing.
Anyway, this is why whenever you mix your coffee, you should first, or hot chocolate or whatever, just put it on top of a diesel engine for a few minutes.
I don't have one. That could be it. Anyway, so for those of you, there we go. So for those of you that are watching live, sorry for the kibitz early. If you're watching live, please feel free to take advantage of the live chat system, which is over on that side of your screen. I don't know which side. I don't remember over there. I did see the Trip and Fool is over there, and Stephanie. Hi, guys. And of course, if you would like to live tweet, you can go ahead and do that at Holy Crap TV. I've got Twitter open. I've got Facebook open. I got all the stuff going, so you can just kind of rock that. And if you would like to join over on Discord, yes, I've got a Discord server open, and I'm watching that also all at the same time. So working all that stuff. So thank you. So let me get everything rolling over here, because this 5-minute freestyle has kind of been a little bit in the works for a while, at least for a couple of days, and it's really pissed me off like you wouldn't believe. It'll make perfect sense momentarily. Your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. What'll you fall for? Yeah, for those of you that were paying attention to the title for tonight for both of them, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for? Yes, was directly ripped off from Hamilton by Lin-Manuel, and I have a hard time because I keep wanting to say Noriega. I'm a product of the 80s, leave me alone. Lin-Manuel Miranda had some brilliant writing. And in this particular case, it just worked out perfectly for what I wanted to discuss. I was looking over some posts on social media, which, you know, I do every once in a while, a little more than I really probably should. But in any case, there were these things that were going through where people are posting these pictures that say, send me I will go through all of these questions in this picture and I will answer them in successive postings. You'll notice I'm not saying where they happen to be from, because they could have been from almost any social media except for G+, because nobody uses G+ anymore. I don't. I've still got the accounts, but I don't know from. Anyway, I saw something that tweaked my spider senses, that made my insides curl up and go, "Oh, dude, really?" The quote is, and I'm quoting, "I am a complete atheist. I have no religious beliefs whatsoever." So I read this one and I'm like, okay, cool. That was the first one. The successive one or two, however, were, again, quoting, "I do believe in the paranormal, though."
Oh, God.
Wait. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. What was the next one? "I am a Sagittarius." Now. Sandwiched inside of all of that, I had a really hard time with this one, because this kind of fell all together at the same time that, like I was saying, we were talking with Dave and, you know, invited him to come on to kind of talk through part of this. "I am a complete atheist. I have no religious beliefs whatsoever." Okay, I'm on board with that, and that makes perfect sense. "I am a Sagittarius." I can get behind that. It doesn't denote that you have any belief whatsoever that this categorization of someone, this compartmentalization of someone, this box, does anything to your life. You were born during a specific time interval. You could be a horse. You could be a cock. You could be a dog, depending as to when you were born, what year, according to the Chinese calendars. You could be a Sagittarius. You could be a Cancer. I could leave it there and have some people going, "Oh, wait, that was actually kind of like smart that he just did that." No, I'm not even going to do that. You could be a fish. Doesn't matter. But it doesn't necessarily denote that you believe anything special about when you were born, other than, it's kind of cool. I went to school with some guys who said, "Yes, I was born as Cancer in 1969. So I'm a 69. You actually have to look at the graphic in order to figure that one out. But the one that got me, of course, was, "I do believe in the paranormal." This is the piece where it caught me altogether, believe it or not. Not the other piece, but this one. I believe in the paranormal, but they're an atheist. This is a situation where you can be an atheist, but not necessarily be that critical a thinker. And there are some groups for whom they try to be critical thinkers, but they still can't make the leap over to being an atheist, or to properly critically think about various different things. And with the 20 seconds that I've got left for you, here. Do you think someone being told you're a karaoke singer is a bad thing or a demeaning thing? What's the difference between a karaoke singer in a bar versus a singer on stage with a full band behind them, a live performers? They're still performing the same music, the same way every time. What's the real difference? Is there a real difference? This is episode 185 on the docket, Your Honor. If you stand for nothing, Burr, and like I said, this is kind of what Dave was talking about with us. It's a matter of that there are a number of groups out there who try to push for skepticism, for critical thinking, and there are those who are specifically, supposedly targeting the atheist movement, the atheist groups, and trying to Venn diagram overlap these. But there are so many others right now for whom have said they're really supposed to be really on there for the atheist part, and they're really falling short. Now, we're going to kind of go through that because I will admit, I will fully admit, I have not really hammered the atheist part a lot. I've tried to be a lot more about the critical thinking part, the examining why things are part, and less on the atheist part. And maybe by the time we get done with this, maybe we're going to end up hitting the atheist part a little bit more often. We'll see. I got no real problem with that one. Before we get going, however, Heretic Woman, I did a quick look. I'm not finding anything new this particular week on Rafe Badawi.
No.
Yeah,
No,
which
me neither.
Unfortunately, like I said on many an occasion, going to be much more the norm than not.
Yep.
So as of the recording of tonight's show, this is now 5 years, 4 months, 12 days since Rafe Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crime. Our thoughts and our hopes are still with you and your family. We are really, really, really hoping for you, man. So let's open up everything with, with Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hello. Just so every viewer is aware, I'm having trouble with bandwidth tonight, so you may see my face on camera, but you may not, depending on my connection. But you will see my stationary mug. So,
yep.
Basically, the way this all started is I had posted a couple of posts talking about, there's a real problem in the secular movement. And let me make a distinction here between atheism and secularism. Atheism is a conclusion based on whatever thought you have about whether or not a God exists. Atheism is not a movement. There is a secular movement. And so you hear me refer to the secular movement, you can assume that you may understand it as the atheist movement. But to be clear, atheism is not a movement, it's a conclusion. What I've noted, let me back up here. About a month ago, I was banned from Facebook for 30 days.
Yeah, congratulations on that one, by the way.
Yeah, it's not my first ban, and it probably won't be my last.
Facebook jail for the win.
It's what happens when you have special snowflakes running the place.
Yeah.
So anyway, during this time, I was still able to log into my account, and I was still active on Twitter, and I have another couple of Facebook profiles that I was still communicating with people. But what I started to see, and this had been kind of creeping up for I don't know how long, but it really took hold within the last 4 weeks, where there are no real voices right now. The better known people in the secular movement, like David Smalley and Ryan Bell, and I'm only using these names as examples of well-known names, not that they specifically are doing this. Ed Brayton is another one. P.Z. Myers, actually P.Z. Myers is an example. He's a jackass.
Thank you.
But
yeah.
But it seems like everybody is focused on social justice issues, but there is no secularism going on. And it's really frustrated the hell out of me to see this, because you want to make progress with everybody wants to make progress with separation of church and state. But the vast majority of people who call themselves atheists and who have an avenue for this information via the internet are not doing anything to further separation of church and state. They're not doing anything to try and convince theists or those who are on the fence that, you know, atheism is, let's call it, accurate.
Yeah. By the way, before we go any further past that one, I want to make special reference because of what Dave just said about atheism being accurate. There is a canard that has been floated time and time and time and time again by one Mr. Matthew Slick, otherwise known as Douche. Shut the fuck up. And
Slime bag Slick.
His argument. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I actually have personal experience with him.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
see, I like the guy because he saves me money on Crisco. Because the guy's so greasy. What I do is I just put one of his little YouTube channels up. I hold up the baking sheet that I want to grease in front of the speakers. And when he's done talking, I can bake whatever I want, and I don't need to go out and buy anything.
Yeah, considering how much of a cancer he is, I don't suggest that. And I don't say that lightly. All right.
The man is horrible.
His argument, his pet argument, which is far and away less wonderful than my pet argument, which is about, you know, how the Bible actually portrays women. But that's a whole other thing for another day. Go look at episode 100. You'll find that one out. Anyway, Matt Slick's thing is, can you, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, can you show proof and evidence that atheism is accurate and correct? Now, I admit I am not remembering it quite exactly correctly the way that he puts it, but that's basically because every time I hear it, it makes me cringe because it is a stupid, malformed question that makes no actual sense, but we know what it is that he's trying to get across. It's kind of like saying, oh, that's very nice, honey. Coloring outside the lines is fine. It would be nice if there were any lines and it wasn't on the wall, but thank you very much. We appreciate that. Very pretty. Could you not do it with feces next time? Thank you. Now, the reason I say this is because atheism, as Dave said, is a conclusion. And the reason why I was talking about the atheism movement, and I misspoke. One of the things that we had discussed one time before was the atheism visibility movement. So, for what it's worth. Now, the problem that we've got with anybody saying atheism is accurate is that using these two terms together very, very quickly brings up Matt Slick because they are so inextricably linked for anybody that's had to put up with his shenanigans, his bullshit videos with his GoPro on top of his helmet when he drives his motorcycle. I've sat through those. I honestly cannot tell you what the hell the guy is thinking. You know, all I know is how he can breathe, rev up the motorcycle engine, swerve correctly through traffic. I will give him that. He has not done anything like popped wheelies at 143 miles an hour, fortunately. Actually, come to think of it, I would really like for him to try. No, I say that. No. I would like for him to try. However, I'm saying it because I know full well that he, when he rides, has got full riding leathers on, so he would be mostly protected if anything were to go wrong. But it's just a thing.
I just have one really quick thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
As an individual who has been on a motorcycle and has exceeded 150 miles per hour on said motorcycle.
Yeah, which we don't recommend.
Well, I'm going to tell you, go right ahead. You go ahead and do that. Just do me one favor. Make sure you've got your organ donor card on you.
I was going to say, does he live in a state with helmet laws or not?
Don't know. He needs somewhere to strap that GoPro, apparently. But anyway.
He just glue it to his forehead.
If only. Oh,
What's this glue thing?
He's dumb enough to glue it to his forehead.
I was say, what's this glue thing? Let me get my drill.
He's probably got a MAGA hat that he clips it to.
No. Like I said, I've sat through several of those videos, not because I wanted to, because 5 minutes in, believe me, I really didn't want to. But no, he's wearing a full-on helmet. He's not wearing a brain bucket or nothing because he's got the visor that flips up and right across. He looks like he looks like discount Daft Punk. I'll say it. All right, I'll just go ahead. For those of you that don't understand French, it's the only French I know how to. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Oh, brutal.
Discount. I'm gonna have to remember that one.
That is a good one.
Remember that. So anyway, like I said, yeah. So Dave spoke with a couple of us about this a couple of nights ago, which again, still proud that you called on a couple of us to help you out on this one. Say agree with me here, Brigid. Agree with me on this one. Would you please? Could you?
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, well, see, here's the big problem. Now you made me go ahead and lose my train of thought and 1 second.
I'm sorry. He's getting serious now.
Well, I forgot my blue hat.
Trains of thought derailing on this show, that's normal.
That's kind of the way that it works. Yeah. Anyway, hi, Dave. Yeah. So about all this.
God.
So you went ahead, you talked with us about how it's like folks are not really concentrating on one of the pieces that's like super important for, I don't know, keeping everybody safe and, working with what we've got. So how pissed off are you now that you went and you saw all the shit that was going on while you're, disallowed from posting all over Facebook because somebody had a bug up their ass for you? That must have been fun.
Oh, yes. Well, I know who it was, and we kind of ruined any plans that they had in the group where I was banned from. But yeah, that was pretty irritating.
Wait a minute. You get me to think. Heretic Woman? Would that be the group that I'm thinking of?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, it was.
It's that group.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Which, by the way, I finally got kicked out of there last week.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that as necessarily a badge of honor. That's kind of like the lowest common denominator right now, I think. Anyway.
No, they refused to kick anybody else out, actually, because I told them to kick me out before, but that's a whole other.
There you go. So anyway, so you got the chance to see what was going on without your input to moderate folks that were in your circles.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't do that anyway. I would just sit back and observe and then raise hell because they're fucking up. Basically, the most recent example I can think of is Dan Arell, who writes on Patheos, and he's pretty much fighting with everyone right now. Particularly David Smalley, who has adopted a strict social justice platform instead of anything regarding atheism or even agnosticism for that matter. And then, Thunderfoot has basically gone away. Well, then you had the debate. Then you had the debate with who was it, Thomas Smith and Sargon.
Oh yes, which I was actually present for.
Well, I didn't see it, but the point I'm trying to make is, everybody is focusing on treatment of women, treatment of blacks, and those are very valid concerns. Don't get me wrong; they do need to be addressed. But when you are saddling atheism with all of this other stuff, any gains that you could make in the secular movement are basically nil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've got all this other stuff to contend with that doesn't have anything to do with atheism. Now, let me point something out here. Jason Rigsby, who's an author, and he and I are connected on Facebook. He brought up, he commented on one of my posts and said something, and he made a couple of good points. And, you know, I agree with him that the treatment of women, treatment of immigrants, equal rights and everything else, those are valid, those are very valid concerns, and it is necessary for us to advocate for equal rights for everyone, but not within the context of atheism. And what he said was that, in one of his statements, that religion was created in such a way to control women. I believe I'm getting that right. I'd have to go back and look at the post, but that's not true. The control of women by men goes back even further than Hammurabi's code, which is what, 5000 BC? Way before Abrahamism was ever a thing, back before Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Religion, there was a method of control worked into religion, but only because of property rights. Women are controlled, women became controlled because they were property, and this goes back 7,000 BC. But before, you know, even during then, and even before 6,000, 7,000 BC on backwards to 10,000 BC, there was still religion. It was mostly animism, and doesn't look like any religion we have today, but they did worship the spirits of nature. Birds in particular were highly regarded in the Middle East, 9, 10,000, 11,000 BC. So the religion itself was not a method. Well, the religion itself was not created in order to control people. There were things that were eventually built into the religion that allowed for that to happen, but it wasn't the religion that caused it. And that's what I'm afraid that a lot of these people out there don't seem to understand. Even if we wiped religion off the planet, you're still going to have these issues of control. You're still going to have maltreatment of, you're still going to have child soldiers in Africa. You're still going to have conservatives here in the U.S. who refuse to even consider the option of birth control. You're going to have conservatives who refuse to consider the option of health care for all. You're going to have poorly treated women, especially in Utah. You're still going to have all this stuff, even if you wipe religion off the planet. That means that those issues are not because of religion. No. If you're going to attack religion, that's fine. Go ahead and attack religion. If you're going to be a social justice advocate and, you know, advocate for women's rights, children's rights, whatever, then go ahead and do that. But don't pretend that they are intertwined, because they're not.
No, they're closely associated, but they are most definitely not the same thing. Now,
one of the positive things of going after religion, though, in regards to women's rights and fair treatment of people and things else, is that by trying to eliminate religion from the picture, you remove one of the support pillars that...
Yes, and that is something that I have said many times before.
Yes.
You're removing a justification for the ways that people act badly.
And that does help. Yes. Persuade, by removing that justification, that does help persuade some of the people who would normally say, well, our religion says it's okay, so it's okay. With that gone, some of the people will actually move from the just going, well, it's not okay. Why am I allowing this to happen?
It takes away that air of legitimacy. Like we've often said, many of us, that people are who they are, and their religion has the same things in it that they already believe. So a racist is going to find things in their religion that justify them being a racist, and a sexist, et cetera, et cetera. So if you take away the holy, the you know, Bible, Quran, Talmud, whatever,
The religious justification,
then they are left with having to explain why they still think in those terms. Because let's be honest, a lot of the people that take religion and say, yeah, my religion says, you know, it's not God or me that says that gays need to go to hell. That's God. You know, I'm just following what God said. If you take that away, then they are left standing there going, yeah, I guess it is me that says that gays are terrible. And now I have to explain and justify that. So it takes away that shield, if you like.
They're going to wind up with two options there. They're going to say, when asked why they think this way, they're going to say they're only going to have two legitimate answers. One, well, it's always been done this way, or two, I really am an asshole.
Exactly. And it's always been done this way doesn't hold water.
And you know, the other part, the second one that you mentioned, Dave, where you said the other reason being, well, I'm an asshole. You know what? I can highly respect somebody who openly admits that they are an asshole or a sexist or a racist or a bigot because they're being honest. They're not lying to themselves. They're not lying to the people. They're like, no, I am honestly this kind of a mean-spirited person. I was like, okay, I still don't like you, but I have respect for your honesty.
Yeah, and as an aside, by the way, for those that want to kind of aren't completely convinced of the idea that, yeah, religious justification is something that can happen very easily, I can give you two examples that are, you know, we've discussed before that make perfect sense. Item one, you got the families in Texas who are saying our kids don't need to go to school because the rapture is coming, so they're not going to need to know anything above 5th grade education level.
Yeah, welcome to Texas, the any day now state.
Yep. Yeah. And the other one was, and Brigid, you know, I know for what you're going to wince probably one of the hardest here, the folks in the Quiverful movement.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that, and the justification for women being told you are basically a breeding station, and that's about it, is specifically, if I remember correctly, I believe it's one passage in the Bible.
Yeah.
But then again, you know, the Baptists also say, you know, we can handle snakes because of one passage in the Bible, and we'll just we'll give you the snakes. We'll just remove these fangs and chill them to, you know, just barely alive, and we'll feed them ahead of time so that they're, you know, nice and docile. Yeah, we can handle them. Sure.
Yeah, and then you get the guys who are on A&E. I think it was Snake Charmers or something like that. It's one, and I think it was Pentecostal. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a branch of Pentecostal.
But yeah, I do remember there was one where the guy was doing the thing. He got bit, and apparently A&E has been following these guys. You know, one of those reality TV shows. And yeah, like his father had died from a snake bite, but now he was picking up the family tradition. He got bitten. They showed a picture of his arm. The thing. Okay, Popeye would have looked at this and went, "Oh my gosh!" You know, like he would have. You know what I mean? But no, he had faith. He had faith. You know, no doctors, no medicine, and sadly, the son of a bitch survived that time.
That time.
You know what? That's really unfortunate.
And you know, the ironic part about that is that particular passage is not in the early versions of the Bible. That was added in later. That's not like a canon piece.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I wanted to kind of pull that out a little bit further is that we know full well that these things happen, and we kind of poo-poo them as the fringe element. But the biggest problem about this is because of these people, because of the influence that they have, I'm not going to call it power just yet, but the influence that they have, they will use these justifications for harming the innocent. And that is one of the things that can arguably be said that what Dave is talking about, where we atheists should be working on atheist issues, and let's just call it social justice warriors for a couple of seconds, just because I don't completely understand why it's such a bad term, but you know, whatever. the people who are working for social justice maybe should be under whatever their own banner is. Can there be overlap? Sure, but that's really not what it's supposed to be all about. Does it sound like I'm kind of close in on the mark there, Dave?
Yes, it does to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a problem with that whole thing, though. You ever try talking to one of these guys or watch them in conversation?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so it goes back to what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, this hyperpolarization with them. It's you are either 100% on board with everything we say and everything we do, or you are, as we coined, everything that's wrong in the universe.
Yeah.
Universe. And that's bringing up every ist, every phobe, everything. You see these people getting called, it's like the thing is they go after these social justice issues with that attitude, thinking that they are the moral crusaders for all of this. And if you have so much as just a crack in your armor against it, you're ousted. You are no longer part of the pure race.
It's like that document that was released by the Google employee. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were sections of it that had very sexist overtones, undertones, and tones every which direction. Then there were other parts of it that actually made a good point about certain states of mind aren't healthy for a company, period, or that they can't be maintained over long periods of time without causing harm inevitably. And those points were on as well. But the problem was everybody focused on the one thing they didn't like most, and they made it sound like that whole document was all about that one thing they didn't like. And if you disagreed with them, then you were a horrible human being. You were blocked or banned or harassed until you were off Facebook or whatever forum that you liked. And it's like, you can't do this. Like I bring up stuff all the time about that I see that target men. Well, I happen to be a guy. Okay, that's going to be normal for me. But I also see things I don't like happen to women, and I say something. All right, yeah. I both sides of the equation, but the stuff that I bring up on my Facebook feed is the stuff that I see that when I say something tends to get ignored. I post it there.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that, like, I remember, what was it I think it was last year, or the year before. I went to that first Shift to Reason convention in Regina.
Yes.
And again, I got to meet some great people. I got to meet Aaron Raw. I got to meet Seth Andrews. I got to talk with Matt Dillahunty for a little bit, but he had a cold and I really didn't want to get any sicker than I already was. So I kind of, like, hey, how's it going? But, just stay over there type of thing. Saw Nate Phelps again. I've had the chance to have a couple of drinks with that guy. So, that's all cool. But one person did show up there and started talking about this need for quote unquote community, which is that it's that initial step, that reach to become all inclusive, to become the collective, where Dave, where you're saying that things should be separate. This person was petitioning that it all be united, and that the atheism movement, as it was called, should become part of the whole social justice thing. And now I didn't see it happen. I came into this game a little bit afterwards, but I've seen the consequences of things like Atheism Plus. We saw what kind of a flying crash that got off to. But it seems they're still pushing for it. And now I caught a blurb from one of the guys who's part of the next Shift to Reason, which is happening in Saskatoon this year. And whatever kind of convention it is, it ain't what it was before. Like, I'll be saving my money and I won't be going because it's not going to be talking about the things that I'm genuinely what I'm in this game for. I'm here because organized religion is bullshit. I'm here because I'm watching how organized religion has been worming its way into politics, and it needs to get out. And people do need to get their heads shaken. And now, especially and Islam is becoming more and more of a problem, and Heretic Woman is probably the, I would say, the forefrontest of the frontline defense or offense, depending on your point of view. But that's why I'm here. Someone wants to call me a homophobe. Well, I got news for you. I lived in a home with 4 other people, 3 of whom there was a bit of a rotating roommate situation. But at any one time, I had at least 3 roommates who were all gay as fuck, pardon my F-bomb. And I got along famously with them. They were great people. You want to call me a transphobe? I have several trans friends whom I love to death and who take a look at the whole trans movement and go, are you fucking crazy? Because they're out of it. They're still trans people. And yeah, they still go through struggles, but they know that I'm their friend. I said friend, not ally. I don't buy into any of that shit. And I do feel bad that a lot of the larger voices of atheism have now sort of gone different ways now. They're to them, the whole atheism 101 thing is, it's passé. It's not, on vogue anymore.
And that's what caused a lot of the problems in Milwaukee, was Mythicist Milwaukee getting this idea in their head that the, quote, traditional style of conference is dying out, and they had to do something radically different because, and this is what made me laugh. They kept saying this in interview after interview after interview, and that, people don't want to see the same people over and over again, so we had to do something different. Okay, so if that's the case, why did you invite and use as advertising all of the same people that you're saying no one wants to see?
Well,
that made me laugh. And I'm sitting there going that the reason I wanted to go was because of the people that you said no one wanted to see. So
yeah. No, they wanted them because that's the draw for the atheist crowd.
Yeah.
A chance to see Seth Andrews do his thing in public. Oh, hell yeah. Sign me up.
But they were saying that their whole reason that they went with Carl Benjamin was that those people weren't a draw anymore. So I'm like, okay, so if they're not a draw, why are you using them as a draw?
Well, I think there was a little bit more to it as well. I think they wanted to shake it up a little bit.
They did, but that was the line that they gave in interview after interview after interview, and I'm like, it doesn't hold water, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Hold on a second, because there's a spin on this that I want to kind of pull together. Because I obviously, I don't want to Dave out of this whole thing. There's a piece about this that I think I want to have you kind of touch on with this, trying to bolt the idea at this point of, okay, atheism is a conclusion because of skepticism, because of scientific investigation, of rigorous asking, because that's how you get there. And part of what we're just what they were just talking about is what kind of community would come together, and this is something that becomes real tough to ignore, because the old expression, there's safety in numbers. What is it that you think might help for people who are atheists, who want to try to make the umbrella term of atheist really worthwhile, as far as to where you think we should all be concentrating more towards?
Dave lost sound.
Okay, well, that's perfect timing, because I have no idea what I just said. That's great. Could somebody like go back about 15 seconds and
so the short version, what can people do for the secular movement?
Well, I guess that's probably the right way of putting it.
Right. If they want to continue forwarding the secular movement, rather than trying to add on all these writers, as they would say up in Capitol Hill when trying to get a bill passed, just focus on the bill itself. rather than the writer. You know, if you're worried that religion enables too many horrible things to happen, then focus on religion. If you're worried about one particular thing, focus on that one particular thing. But don't use the one as don't try to use secularism as a means to change, say, sexism, and then demand that all other seculars focus on sexism. It's like, if you want to focus on sexism, focus on sexism. If you want to focus on religion or anti-religion, focus on that. If you want to do both, you can have both, but don't force other people who are one to automatically accept the other.
But you see, I think one of the problems is, okay, so you want to focus on sexism, and I'm about to be very glad that I'm semi-anonymous in the world. If you want to do something strictly on sexism and have like an anti-sexism convention or something like that, I can almost guarantee you that in the United States of America, you ain't going to get the numbers of an atheist convention. And I think that's why they try to weave into it, is because, you know, pre-atheism plus, from what I saw, at least, you know, in old videos and stuff like that, that was massive.
What the hell is atheism plus?
Basically, that was where the social justice warrior thing kind of evolved.
It was a movement. It was very much like this whole intersectionality thing now, except that it was like atheism plus, you know, anti-homophobia and anti-sexism and all of that. It's the same thing, different label, basically.
Yeah. And Richard Carrier was the one that kind of spearheaded it. P.Z. Myers bought into it full bore. Thunderfoot actually took a stand and said, you know what, nah, I'm just going to stick with, you know, going after creationists, getting rid of pseudoscience, et cetera, and he got blackballed hard.
And this is what I don't understand. Like, if, like Tech said, if you want to, like, now they call it intersectionality. So if you want to put your energy into intersectionality and try to cover as many bases as you can, then that's awesome. Like, you do that. But if you don't want to do that, then no one else should be bitching at you because you've decided to focus your energy in one place.
Yeah. Let me grab that now that Dave's back. Dave, let me kind of pitch this one over to you, because I think there's a piece about this that you know, ignoring what I tried to say before, because for the life of me I wouldn't be able to remember what the hell I said it before. What about portraying it this way? Changing things, making them better, making them fair, making them equal, equitable for everyone is a good thing. It's what hat you're wearing. It's what banner you're flying that's causing the biggest problem, that's making the biggest dust-ups for people. Would that sound about right so far?
And now he says it's cut out again.
Son of a bitch.
He'll be back after these words from our sponsor. Oh wait, we don't have any. Never mind.
This was actually a good question too. You know what?
It was a good question.
Let me because I think this is something that I think
when he reboots, type it in there so you can read it.
Well, I'll try to remember it this time. But let me pitch it over to you guys, because the way that we're talking about this, I'm kind of wondering if, and again, I'm going to use the term social justice warrior. Again, I will freely admit, I don't completely understand exactly what it means, and I don't understand why it would be derisive to people. I mean, people wanting equality makes sense to me.
The ideal is good.
I can explain that one.
Yeah, go for it, Brigid.
Let Brigid have it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. The reason why social justice warrior became derisive is because you would have some people fighting for social justice that would take it to extremes.
Yes.
Where that's where you got into the whole, so-and-so is committing microaggressions because they went to the drive-thru at Taco Bell, so that's appropriating culture and things like that, and they took it to such a ridiculous level that they were
so basically the whole polarization thing that we were talking about before.
Yes.
And started calling them SJWs and
generally speaking, those are the types of people that are being referred to as SJW.
Yeah. Like social justice on its own. Like, for instance, I'm about to create some controversy. Sorry.
Have at it.
At least I apologized beforehand.
Hey, you know what? To get emails for change that aren't from the server that say, hey, you've got some more spam messages, that'd be fine by me. Go right ahead.
All right. Here's the deal. The Christian bakery, the bakery that won't bake the cake for the gay wedding. Okay. There was a humongous dust up. There were laws. There were fines. There was this. There was that. None of that. None of that should have happened. Social justice is going onto that person's Yelp site and saying, if you are a homosexual couple looking to get a cake made, you might not want to come here. Other people will see that and go, well, gee, if they are that intolerant towards gay people, even though I'm straight, maybe I won't give them my business either because I don't really support their beliefs. Don't get the police involved. Don't get the courts involved. Don't levy a fine against these people because then you make them a martyr. And especially if you've got a politician who is sympathetic because of the Bible, they're gonna hold those people up and say, "You see how persecuted we are."
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why it went to court was because the bakery owners they broke the law. They released customer information, private information to the public, which they were not supposed to do.
Okay.
That's why it went to court.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But on that side, fine. But what I'm saying is that's kind of the ideal of social justice is you let society take care of it. You let the market decide whether or not these people are going to remain profitable or remain in business even because of what they've done, in public.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter that, okay, you know what? Fine. I don't want to make cakes for gay people. Okay. So the consequence is no gay people will come and buy your cakes. People who are friends of gay people may glom onto that and go, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do business there either.
Yeah.
That to me is social justice. It is not coming up to a guy like me, of which you know nothing about me and automatically saying I am everything that's wrong with the universe because I'm white.
Yeah. At that point, you're attacking a potential ally.
Which, and that too, this whole ally thing, I want to be a good ally for this, that, and the other thing. Okay, you know what? If you're going to hold up a Twilight Sparkle-sized checklist in front of me and tell me that I have to fulfill all of these things in order to be considered
No, that's not what I meant. When I said potential ally, what I mean is you're coming up to somebody, you don't know where their stance is on the men's rights or women's rights or egalitarianism, walking the fine line between the two. You don't know where they stand on sexism or homosexual marriage or any of those things. So you could be coming up to a person who maybe they don't have a very big online presence, but they vote for the politicians who stand up for the rights of everybody to get married as long as they're a consenting adult, for everybody to be able to go into a parlor that sells wedding cakes and buy a wedding cake, within the options that are available on the menu and that sort of thing. And here you are attacking them because of one particular thing, and suddenly they see, oh, well, this person's got an online presence and they're big in the, maybe I won't take an interest in the same things this person does, so that way I don't cross paths with them anymore. And suddenly now you've kicked somebody out that was helping you or helping other people, and you've alienated them. Yeah, and that's what I meant, not any other form of ally when I said ally.
Gotcha. Okay, so a couple things before we get on to back. Dave is finally back. I'm assuming that we've got your audio back and all. Yes,
I do.
Okay.
Hey,
And I
you
also
see me waving?
and I also wanted to point out Joseph just joining us over from Paris this
Bonjour.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
I made it. Bonjour.
Thank
Comment allez-vous?
I wanted.
Ça va?
Sorry.
Oui, ça va?
Wait. Comment allez-vous? I thought we knew each other a bit better. Didn't think
Yeah.
it was so formal.
I'm speaking to everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Plural.
Oh,
So,
of course you think I'm speaking specifically to you. Okay.
Yes, I'm just that frickin' vain. Thank you very much.
Well, you're not from Quebec.
I
You
want.
probably thought this show was about you.
Actually,
Nice.
it's all about Dave. Actually, right now. By the way, thank you for learning
Dave's
and
not
speaking
here.
to us in Greek. I appreciate that.
Well
Thank you so
played.
much.
I
So-
wanted to. Stephanie made a really good point in the chat. Actually, if I could, she said that when you call yourself a warrior, I turn away. All warriors do is fight. They're not interested in talking and negotiating.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah,
I,
there,
I completely understand that sentiment.
Good point.
yeah, there is something to be said for that. But the problem that I've got with it, and I'm not disagreeing. The problem that I've got with it is, what are they fighting for?
Mhm.
Because there are times when you need to be full bore for a specific goal. Now, this is, of course, one of those, it's either black or it's white, or there's everything wrong with the universe and the photons that you're following. But there are times when that may be something worthwhile and needed. Now, I'm not saying
yeah.
I'm absolutely sure about this one, but at the same time, yeah, I can... What's the expression? Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Oh, yeah, really nice absolute there for you. Good.
I prefer Babylon 5. We are gray.
Yeah, we are.
You
All right,
have
so
to be.
Well-
Dave, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bridge.
I was gonna say my issue with them is it seems like some of them may have started out with good intentions, but they look for offense where none is intended, or most
Yeah.
I would say average people would not see offense. It's almost like they're digging for it so they can fight something, and it creates a lot of drama and division.
And make a tire fire where there wasn't one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you think they do that?
That is an excellent question. Dave, I'm going to kind of pull this back over your way a second, because I also want to get the question back over to you that I was running with before. To kind of go along with this, do you think that maybe part of what you're trying to get across to folks is that if you've got a banner, if you've got a hat to wear for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, cool, but make sure you're wearing the right hat, you're carrying the right banner for what it is that you're trying to do, and stop screwing people over.
And
Mother,
you just.
And he's gone again.
Oh.
you know, it's going to be one of those nights. You know what? Fuck it. I'm kicking him off. I don't care anymore.
There he's back.
There he is.
Get him right away.
Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure what the problem is. I think this Chromebook is probably about ready to fail.
I know what the problem is. The problem is that you've got way too many people who are trying to glom onto your Web 2. That's a thing. You're in IT. You remember about that. You heard of it. Whatever. Anyway, all right. So here's the thing. Is part of what you think might be worthwhile trying to identify and get people to understand, if you're wearing a particular hat, if you are carrying a specific banner, you should be wearing the right hat or carrying the right banner for whatever piece it is that you are trying to accomplish. If it's a matter of separation of church and state, you should be carrying the atheist banner. If you're trying to do social consciousness and social change and equality, you should be wearing a different hat or carrying a different banner, perhaps a humanist banner or a feminist banner, depending as to which niche you're acting towards. Do you think that maybe that might be a piece of what might be talked about at this point.
Yes, I think that would be. I think that should be something that everyone who considers themselves an activist should do. The biggest problem is that if you're going to fight for equal rights for women, and you're going to base your argument on the rejection of a deity, well, you're not going to make any headway because you're diluting both messages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whereas, keeping with this item for a moment, since your tech is still working for the time being, sorry,
Yeah.
not your tech. Then, if you're working for equality for females, and I'm not going to say women for a second, for female versus male, you probably should be under the feminist banner. So far, so good, you think?
Yes.
Okay. Not that it's exclusively the only one, but that would be one that one could use.
Okay. Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, because I'm sure that there are some people who would say that the humanist banner might be a better fit because humanism is for general equality for all and good stuff for everybody. And I'm really, really, really glossing over a lot of pieces, but I try to get the piece in there. Yes, Joseph.
Yeah, I've got a bit of something to say on that about like all these faction groups. You've got people fighting for equal rights for women, equal rights for gays, equal rights for any given color, and all that. Well, like, who are all these people? Well, the target is who? I mean, it's bigots. And bigots are people who will have one set of rule for one type of person and another set of rule or anything goes for another. And that is a question of in-group, out-group mentality. And the bigot is going to play fair, quote unquote, with whoever they consider to be part of their in-group, and play unfair for everybody who's outside of their group. And I think that's the problem. And once somebody is in an in-group, out-group mentality, it's hard to say who they're going to be bigoted against. They're going to be bigoted against anybody who doesn't match whatever programming, well, their quote-unquote worldview that they've been programmed with until that time. I mean, bigotry is not a rational thing. And people who behave in bigoted ways are not behaving rationally. And I really think it's that in-group, out-group, survive by imitation modus operandi. I think it's that we have to attack. And I mean, if we could all do that together, like it just attack bigotry in itself, we could all be united, and I mean, anybody could be part of that group.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely, Joseph. That's a good idea. And I'm also going to remember that phrase, survive by imitation. I like that.
Well, that's, oh, yeah, I'd have to go into a rant about that. But I mean, this is what I see happening. I mean, when humans seem to have two modes. When we're in childhood, we have to depend on our parents and everything to decide what's good and bad for us. We're not making our own survival decisions by ourselves. And at a given age, normally you're supposed to, quote unquote, grow up and learn to make our own survival decisions for ourselves and take the consequences, which means we start everything we see, we make our own judgments on everything we see, value judgments, I call those. And we take the responsibility for those decisions.
Yep.
But
Sorry, I was going to say that happens right about the time you start growing hair on your genitals.
Well, yeah, and there's a whole thing that. Well, yeah. I was a bit late, but anyways.
Welcome to WTMI. All too much information all the time.
But there's something that goes on in the brain. It's called pruning, where the brain, it just like completely remaps itself. I don't know if this happens for everybody, but it has been documented happening. So like, so if you're going to go through life making your own survival decisions, just imagine yourself living by yourself in the wild. I mean, you have to make your own decisions. You have to take the consequences of all your own decisions, whether it's the right mushroom to pick and all that, you're responsible for all that. But anybody not in that mode, like, how are they going to make their decisions? Well, they're just going to imitate the next guy. Well, the next guy is not dying. Okay, so I'm going to do what he's doing. And this is what this survived by imitation thing is. Yeah. So this is what a bigot is, actually, because the bigot just will reject anything that is not in his programming, which means it's not what the next guy's doing. It's not what the next guy in his in-group is doing.
Yeah, there's something that Trippin put just now that I kind of also wanted to hit and pull this in with all this also. Trippin had said, quote, "Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you might be the only thing I go by daily from the Bible." Now, first off, I don't recall if that actually is the way that it's written, but be that as it may, I understand what you're referring to. And yes, we know full well the Golden Rule predates the Bible significantly, but I don't follow that one. I have specifically, a while ago, I'd found out about various different rules. The Golden Rule being the one that's quoted over here, but the one that I tend to follow much more is something called the Brass Rule. The Brass Rule says, "Do unto others as they do unto you." Now, I use that one, and I bring this one up because this one is much more individualized. It's not a blanket statement for everyone. There are going to be people who are going to be assholes to you. And believe me, there's one person that I know of, that one of the few people I've ever blocked on Facebook, who is a big-time asshole. Huge. Huge. Guy made comments about
Yes.
being able to hold his wife at night where I can't.
Oh,
Yes,
that one.
Yes, that one.
I knew
Now,
exactly.
That's
what
a
you meant.
special brand of asshole there.
Yes, it is. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that one out is because making blanket statements at this point may not necessarily be the way to deal with a lot of pieces. There's nuance, there's individuals, there are pieces, and I'm not even really sure where I want to kind of pull this together from.
Why do people make blanket statements?
Because it's easy.
It's for their own comfort.
Yeah.
Their own ignorance.
Well, let's be clear about one thing.
Yeah.
Blanket statements are an outgrowth of stereotypes, and there is a reason that stereotypes exist. Unfortunately, many stereotypes are exaggerated way beyond the root material.
Yeah.
But they do exist for a reason. Anyway, that's just a tangent. So.
No,
Well,
no, and it makes perfect sense. Let's.
No, it's not a tangent. I'm not disagreeing.
We got about 45 minutes ish left over at this point. So let's. Dave, I want to give you as much as much airtime as I can at this point, because one of the things that you ended up talking about was trying to figure what kind of voice should be out there to kind of pull people together. And I'm wondering how much you want to float that out to folks, or what you want to bounce off of, or where you'd like to pull that together for yourself at this point. I mean, you've got us. We may not necessarily have a huge audience, but an opportunity to kind of give you a sounding board.
Yeah, we have more than one person who watches.
That's true. That's true, and we appreciate it.
We have 77 subscribers too.
We do, and we appreciate you. And by the way, I have never gone to look at podcast download numbers. I refuse to, because I don't ever want to get into that whole, well, we're doing something wrong because we don't have large numbers. Let's change this so that we get more. No. We're putting out what we want. Scratch that. We're putting out what I want because this is what I want to put out. Because if I'm not having fun, ain't nobody going to be having fun. And you guys who are enjoying this, thank you. I'm sorry, that's enough dick stroking of my own at this point. Dave, struck my dick at this point. Tell us what it is that you want to pitch off. I'm doing the best thing.
Oh no, you just.
I think we need Negafoda for that one.
We might.
Yeah. No, actually, Shujin, you just reminded me of something. It was in a movie, and I do not remember the movie or the character that said it.
Oh, I'm really hoping it wasn't the Incredible Shrinking Woman, because I'm really getting scared now.
Dick Van Dyke?
No, it was. No, it was something. The guy said
Wrong
something.
dick.
The guy said something along the lines of, "I do what I want. Sometimes people join me."
Demolition Man. Dennis Leary.
Was it that?
Yeah, I do it.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
I was going to say somebody working in a peep show.
Well, it truth be told, Dave, I mean, that's really the reason why we part of the reason why we actually got this started. I mean, part of it was because we were trying to get, the heavy stuff away from a lighter weight show. And like I said, I've intentionally not gone looking for, the grand numbers to find out, where do we fit with everybody as far as our numbers, because screw it. If we're not enjoying what we're doing, if we don't feel that we're putting something out there worthwhile, we're not going to enjoy ourselves. It's work. When it becomes work, then, the show ends. But until that point, there's more than just us here.
Yeah.
So if he was really worried about money, he wouldn't have me on the show.
Yeah.
You're expensive.
No, I'm not. I'm cheap. I'm just not easy.
That's not what I've heard.
Good, faster, free.
Not on the air, honey.
I am staying all the hell away from this one.
Okay, so Dave, yeah. So as far as to what you're talking about, getting the voices together, getting them working together. This was one of the things that you kind of talked about. So, we, like I said, half an hour. Let's go ahead and go through that for you.
Well, I don't necessarily think that voices need to get together, because any great movement starts as grassroots. And now that many people who call themselves atheists are becoming more vocal, that's a good thing. I think that it's getting sidetracked. What I want to see, and I've kind of been tossing some ideas over in my head for something that I can do too. But what I would like to see is for people like Seth Andrews and Dan Arell and, a lot of these other people out there, focus exclusively on critical thinking and science and the rejection of bad ideas. If someone wants to, take up the banner of feminism, that's fine. Then go right ahead and do that, because, we need for women to be treated equally in this country. And regardless of whether or not we've got laws passed and everything else, it's still not equal. The same thing is true for blacks. I mean,
why not just the banner, same rules for all?
That would be called egalitarianism, and that's why I'm an egalitarianist.
Yeah.
Yes, but you have,
Or anti-bigotry banner.
Well, when you talk about egalitarianism, you have feminists that rail against that because they say egalitarianism is a cop-out and you should be a feminist. No, the fuck I shouldn't be a feminist.
Yeah.
I'm an egalitarian. I believe not just in equal rights for women, but equal rights across the races, equal rights for children.
Because I've been on the other side of sexism that goes towards men in the U.S. court system, where they see fathers not as fathers but as basically ATMs, and that's part of the reason I'm on both sides of the equation. I've seen things people. I have a sister. Okay, I've seen how companies have treated my sister or my mother. I've heard the stories. I know where I am because I'm a white male. I know what kind of privileges and so to speak that I have. Like, I can get pulled over by a car and pretty much not fear for my life being shot by a cop. Okay, yeah, because I also have friends who do have to worry about things like that. I also know I can walk in and get a wedding cake since I'm straight and not have to worry about being denied a wedding cake, unlike some of my friends who actually do have to worry about things like that. So yeah, I know where I stand with myself in how society treats me, but I also know I'm aware of how they treat others. And there's a whole lot of bullshit going around on every single side of the equation, and it all needs to stop.
I agree.
Hence why I'm an egalitarian, not an MRA, not a feminist, not a what's it. I'm a humanist, I'm an atheist, I'm an anti-theist, I'm a lot of things.
Yeah. I think right now what I would like to see individual voices do is pick their fight and stick with that fight.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be far more effective if you arm yourself with those particular tools. You're not going to have, if you're fighting a war, you don't want your mechanized infantry also doing the job of the foot soldiers.
Exactly.
Because you're going to lose the war.
Yeah, look like Arron Burr and his background.
And that's why this whole intersectionality thing, I don't think is a good idea.
No, it isn't. It absolutely is not.
What is intersectionality? What's that?
That's the whole idea that, if you're going to be a feminist, you also have to be anti-racism and anti-homophobia and everything all at once, and you have to see everything from everybody else's perspective, and
you also can't support this person
There's
over
a
here
grain
who
of
claims to be
truth to
feminist.
Well, there is,
but it's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the thing. Yes, those things are interconnected, and I think seeing that they're interconnected is a good thing. But
that's a great move forward.
But you can't be an activist in all things at all times.
Well, you can be. You just can't be effective at it.
Thank you.
I see something happening here. It's there's a burden of proof and there's a burden of, but there's something I see. It's a burden of guilt.
Yes.
And I see a lot of times the guilt being put on, somebody who's fighting for Black rights. They're putting it on the white people, but it should be the guilt should be put on the bigots.
Yes.
Because, I may be white. And I may be privileged because I've got no obstacles in front of me, or less obstacles. But who decides that? And I mean, it's the bigots. If I go up to a counter, a lunch counter, it's the person behind the counter who's going to decide if they're going to serve me first or somebody else. And that's the person who should be targeted. It's going to be the bigot who decides whether I'm privileged or not. It's not me deciding that.
Yeah, there's a Venn diagram that gets complicated very quickly if you are not careful about it. Most bigots tend to be most reported bigotry comes from white evangelical Christians. Not all white evangelical Christians are bigots. There is a Venn middle of just those two that is a small percentage who are the bigots. And it's really, really easy to make an erroneous blanket statement about white people or evangelical Christians.
It's impossible to predict like every case. All we can do, you see, in all this, what I see is just an individual unwilling to make case by case decisions.
And
case by case judgments.
Yes, and
they're
that's what
trying
has
to,
to.
A lot of these days.
They're
That's
trying
what
to
you
make
have to
everybody
do.
else conform to their own, lack of or understanding.
And you have to treat every person, every situation as an individual person and situation. You can't just be, oh well, that because it's just as bad as what you claim to be fighting against.
If not.
Like if you're sitting there going, well, anybody who looks or talks like this must be X. It doesn't matter if any person who looks or talks black is terrible, or anyone who looks and talks white is a bigot. Like it's the same thing.
All these people are doing is just expressing their own inability to make individual value judgments by themselves.
Because you have to take every person that you come across as that person. So you have to interact with them long enough to try and make a determination about that individual, not like, oh, well, that person is X, so therefore I can assume that they're going to have these values, which is, you can't do that.
Go back to this, but somebody who won't make their own value judgments, it's like, basically for me, it's people who do not know how to survive for themselves. Everything for them is it's not thought, it's pattern matching.
Well, and
it's not rational.
It's not. And I've often said too that the folks that I've encountered who are the worst of this, that are the extreme versions of let's say the SJW, or someone who's my way or the highway kind of thing, especially in the secular community, I can see they've gotten rid of the God, but they are still thinking like a religious person.
But
so
they don't see it because God's out of the equation. They don't see it
because they took God out of the equation. Yes. Exactly. They've substituted God with their cause of the whatever cause they've decided to throw themselves into.
But it's somebody else making all their decisions for them.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, which is religious, the religious way of
programmer.
Thinking. Yeah.
This is where I see the base. This is the problem for everything, for racism, for all forms of bigotry. It's this.
And like you said, looking for something to blame. So, for instance, the white nationalists that we're seeing a lot of, they are, because many of them feel like, because they vote against their own interests, so they feel like they're struggling. So what do? They have to find somebody to blame. And who are they going to blame? Well, immigrants or black people or non-Americans or whatever you want to say, but they're looking for that scapegoat. And that sort of mentality is bleeding into so many things, I think.
But it's just things that don't match their programming.
Yep.
That's basically what they're looking for. And I mean, this is the parallel I see between all misogyny, all racism, all that's just that same behavior pattern. And I really think it's that we really have to target, like teach people to think for themselves.
Absolutely.
To make their own value judgments instead of just like blindly imitating whatever leader, decider, follower.
Yeah.
And that's why you get that instance of, somebody who deviates just a minute amount from what someone thinks, you know, oh, you're a feminist, but you don't believe, you know, this one little thing, or you think that this one little tactic is wrong. Well, you're not really a feminist. You're actually a misogynist. Like that sort of thinking.
And if you take people who think like this, you know, if you take this making your own judgments or not, if you make the dividing line there, then the bigots and people like this, they're actually on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and this is where all of the confusion comes from. Like if people are talking about how the left is going, these terms are meaningless now.
Sound like Wheaton's law. Don't be
a dick.
Yeah, but you've got people on the left who think for themselves who don't. You know, you've got people on the left who are fighting for.
Excuse me.
Yeah, these people are basically looking for somebody to make all the decisions for them. It's just that the left is all inclusive and the right is all exclusive. You know, whatever pattern they
and yet it's funny because I get, like, I'm pretty much in the, you know, left-leaning center, and I'll make the same kinds of arguments in different debates, and I'll get, like, for instance, Islam, right? If I say, you know, I think Islam is a bad ideology, I get one person saying, well, you're a Zionist, racist, bigot, this and that, and then I'll say, but and you know, you love Jews, and then I'll say, well, but Judaism is also a bad idea, and then I get, oh, you're a Islam lover, you know, this and that, and it's like, well, I'm neither. I'm none of those things.
Yeah,
like, why applying labels? Like most conversations I see online now, like I saw a discussion between Dave Rubin and this Sargon guy.
Yeah.
And okay, I watched it for other reasons that we won't get into, but you know, I watched the interview, and at the end of the interview, I just went back and go, what the fuck were these guys talking about? I mean, they weren't talking about anything at all. I mean, what did they accomplish in this interview? What clear understanding did they create about anything? But they're just dancing around each other's labels, and the discussion basically, all I could come up with is, you know, they're talking about who most to trust. What type of person should you trust, or what type of person, you know, should you believe?
So
over others
on that. Pardon my naivete.
And this is what the labeling is about. Sorry.
It's okay. But is this what they refer to as identity politics? Because I've heard that buzzword come up quite a bit. It's like it's no longer the person. Like it's no longer, you know, new guy starts work at my job. This is, you know, hey, you know, come on over here. I want you to meet our new gay deployment specialist.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Basically.
You know, wait, what? Oh yeah, he's our gay deployment specialist. Okay, so he's a deployment specialist who just happens to be gay. No. He's a gay deployment specialist. Like it's like that first part of it, the fact that the person's gay is suddenly the most important part. No.
That was actually brought up in that Google document memo thing.
Yeah.
How hiring somebody based not on their qualifications, but on some other aspect of them, you know, color, skin, gender, things like that, that's not a sustainable system for a company.
No, and I've also seen where I've seen a couple of Facebook posts and a couple of blog posts where people say, you know, like, we should be talking about identity politics. This should be the way we go. And my thought is, I refuse to label people. I would sooner get to know them and make that judgment for myself. And quite frankly, again, who you choose as your love interest is of no concern to me unless you're coming after me, at which point, you know, maybe then we have to have a discussion. But, you know, if that's what you do, I don't care what you do after hours. If you're my coworker and you're doing the same job I'm doing, then I'm going to do what I can to make sure that you are the best at that job, you know, through training and stuff. But I don't care that you're gay. I don't care that you're trans. I don't care that you're black. Can you do the job? Great. End of story. You know, if you've got a good personality and I can get along with you, and trust me, I've got a pretty diverse workforce that I deal with. You know, I get along with people of different backgrounds. I don't get, you know, there are some white people I don't get along with.
If my cat came up to me and started talking to me, I mean, like, we're communicating, you know. So, I mean, I don't understand this. I mean, if
your cat came up to you and started talking to you, I'd be wanting some of the drugs that you're currently taking.
Because you don't have a cat.
Exactly.
That's part of it. I think it would be much more impressive if your cat were to suddenly be, I don't know, doing a song and dance on a spaceship. Again, there's about 3 people that just got that reference. And
hello, my baby. Hello, my darling.
That's not the one.
That's the one I thought of, though.
Nah, that's
no, not again.
No, actually, I was thinking the song is called "Tongue Tied." Look it up sometime. All right. So
see, I was thinking of Cat on Red Dwarf, but
that's exactly the one.
I was just making, like, I was just saying, if you know, if anything at all came up to you in the street and started talking to you, you know, of course, you know, you're communicating, you're exchanging information. I mean, what does the person's or the thing or whatever, what it looks like or not, how does that affect whatever they're saying to you? How does that affect the value of what they're saying?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
And, I mean, it'd be like,
and it's funny because there seems to be, and maybe it's just the people that I'm coming across online, but there seems to be a lot more of focusing on the individual and their characteristics. Like, for instance, I mean, I've been arguing with people.
Do they match my programming?
Well, I've been arguing with people online for a decade now, more than a decade. And you know, for a long time, you would get the gambit of, you know, you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're a moron, blah, blah, blah. And it's just recently that I'm starting to get things like you're fat, you're ugly, you're a whore, that kind of stuff, where I haven't seen that in a number of years. And so it's gone. And I mean, anybody who's arguing that and not the ideas is an idiot anyway, but that I'm just seeing a shift in going from attacking the person, if you're going to do ad homs, attacking the person's intellect, going to the physicalities. And I don't, like, to me, that's just like even more ridiculous, because that's, I mean, saying, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you're stupid. Well, you don't know that, whatever. But to say, well, you're wrong because you're fat, I'm like, how the fuck does that even compute? Like, seriously. like I just
that's
had
not fat sounding.
I know. It's like, well, you're wrong because you're ugly. Well, okay, I'm ugly. I'm still fucking right.
The funny thing about that is the brain is basically fat.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'll have to use that.
Oh,
I've got reserves.
Yeah.
Heretic Woman, don't I would recommend against using that one because you confuse them even more.
Well, you can't confuse some of these idiots any worse than they already are. So,
well, okay, you know what? I retract that, because maybe you get them into that one part of confusion that may lead to spontaneous combustion.
That's a bonus. That could be, yeah.
You know what? I've often heard it said, the gene pool needs Drano. Well,
yeah. I mean, I'm laughing because Foda's seen it. There's this idiot that's been on my wall the last 2 days, going on and on. I posted some memes. There's a quote from Muhammad, and I'm paraphrasing. It's basically, you know, any country that lets itself be led by a woman is bound for disaster, something like that's just a total paraphrase. And then the first one was something that appeared on my feed was a picture of Queen Elizabeth I, and it says, interesting, tell me more. And that was somebody else's, and I thought it was great, so I made one with Catherine the Great. It's a Madagascar queen whose name I can't pronounce, and Queen Hatshepsut from Egypt, who was one of the most successful pharaohs. And I did a series of memes with that quote, and it's basically, the quote is a sexist quote, and I'm saying, screw you, here's all these women rulers who did a really good job in history.
And all four of them were more powerful than Muhammad.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the guy
they've all got something in common. They're all dead now. So
they're all dead, yes.
Take that.
Well, the first two I had posted was the original Queen Elizabeth and then the one of Catherine the Great. And this guy comes on and he's like, oh, you're just a white nationalist racist and you hate Islam and blah, blah, blah. And, well, no, I hate Muslims, not Islam. And he is going on. And then I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot. Screw you. And then he comes in with, you're fat and ugly and a redneck and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm still right, assholes.
You're so redneck, it's blood to your hair.
Well, actually, that's true. I come from a very long line of rednecks back to at least the 18th century. One line goes back to the 16th century that I've found. So, I'm very redneck. That's fine. I don't care.
You're looking really good for 423 years old.
Thank you.
Nice.
Don't look a day over.
He said I was hideous, but that's okay. Because we know what he's doing to my picture right now, don't we?
There's a picture of an attic somewhere getting prettier.
That's great.
All right, this one time at band camp.
But it's like, how do you go from, hey, that's a sexist comment and here's proof of a woman ruler who did great things, to, you're racist and white nationalist.
Just replace all of this with bad.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like the fucking Daleks. This does not correspond to programming. Exterminate.
I loved, though, I'm a Zionist and a Nazi sympathizer. And I'm like, I thought the whole the whole hating Jews was part of the Nazi thing. Last I checked.
Yeah, basically like
what Jews for Jesus.
Yeah. What they've
that's a real thing, by the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. I honestly think that when you get them to that point, Heretic Woman, basically, they won't say it out loud, but they've lost the game.
Oh yeah,
they don't know it. That's the thing. They don't know it. They don't realize.
They don't. And I'm just sitting there laughing at the guy the whole time, and he keeps coming back. Like today, he was back again on one of the threads, and I'm just like, really?
Are you all done hitting yourself in the face? Oh,
yeah. Maybe I'll ask him that next time.
It's like the two guys in Home Alone, Joe Pesci and the other guy. From Home Alone 2, do you give up? Have you had enough? Never!
Yeah.
And they just keep just about killing themselves for what? Like
I don't mean to, like, this sort of mentality. Mm-hmm. It's to the death. I mean, that's where it goes. If it's irrational and you're doing it, like, these people in their minds, they're defending their own survival. In a way, because you don't correspond to their programming. That's their survival guide. So you're a threat to their survival. And I mean, what Deborah was saying earlier about people starting to go to, you're fat and ugly. Well, they're already pushing the envelope of what's acceptable, as a limit for degrading the targeted, the outgroup, the bad person, the threat,
It's depersonalization.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just like people like this are limited by their environment, which means that, okay, if I hit this person in public, will it be socially acceptable? That's what's stopping them. And like in the 1970s, you go into supermarkets, you see mothers hitting their kids all the time. It's acceptable. Do you see that today now? No. So like the envelope is changing.
Yeah.
And, that's really worrying that, this sort of attack is more and more acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's going to spread because like these survive by imitation people, they're all going to imitate each other. Oh, that guy can do it. And he's on my side, so I can do it too. And it's like a virus.
Yeah. Okay. So you've kind of opened a piece, and since we're getting very close on to cut off, Dave, normally I would have give everybody an opportunity of speaking through stuff, but I want to have you basically kind of give us your thoughts on and kind of feel us through the last piece here. The idea that there are going to be people who are going to take figurative shots at us if we specifically tout out the atheism banner. Now we know this. We've seen this. We've got the Satanic Temple putting up the big billboards now that say, our religion doesn't believe in, hitting kids. There are, the FFRF putting up their stuff that, an innocuous sign that says, you don't believe in God? Well, you're not alone. And we see these things get defaced all the time because people can't put up with it. Your opinion to kind of pull the last piece together before we have to get out of here. How do we deal with the eventual blowback that's going to happen when we tout out the specific atheist banner? Because we know for well it's going to have happened. We're going to get locked in Facebook jail. We're going to get our timelines defaced and people yelling and screaming at us. What do you think that we should do when this is going to inevitably start happening? How do we pull people back together to stand with us?
I am not sure that any one person can be a ringleader to bring the focus back to atheism and secularism. I think that probably what will eventually happen is that the voices with the greatest platforms now will become so bogged down in petty issues that a new crop of people will spring up to, carry that banner. And then the voices we know today will basically be forgotten in another 4, 5, 6 years.
I like the skepticism banner because that applies to everything.
Well, not for some.
Well,
I mean, you still have atheists who believe in ghosts and shit.
Oh
Yeah.
no, but I'm talking about
Anti-vaxxer.
skepticism, like as not as a banner, but an actual thing. I mean, it's about
Well, yes, and we
question
understand
everything.
that. But see, the problem of it is what Dave had been talking about earlier was that if you want to get onto an issue, cool, but use use the right tool for the job, use the right banner for what you're advocating for.
How can you predict that kind of thing?
Well, now that's a whole other question for later. But
Yeah.
anyway, Dave, back for you because we again I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot on this one because it's a big question of basically
Agreed.
I can only hope that
What you were asking me, how do we deal with it? And I think that the best course of action is similar to the one you've adopted. You talk about the things that you want to talk about. You center on that and you go forward. And eventually you're going to have people come along. One of the things that I'm an advocate for is debate. But I will only debate somebody if there's an audience. Because I'm not concerned with changing my opponent's mind. I want to get to the people who are sitting on the fence. And, you start changing enough of those minds, eventually the people who are in line with your opponents are going to start to disappear. So my thing is, do what you're good at. First of all, pick your issue and stick with your issue. Once you do that, engage yourself and focus only on that issue. When it comes to atheism and secularism, engage in debate. If you can do some outreach in your community, like for instance, setting up a live ask or an in-person Ask an Atheist, or maybe become part of a panel discussion, do that. But don't just decide to armchair quarterback, which I guess somebody could argue that I'm doing. Don't just sit there and armchair quarterback the whole effort. Get out there and do something, but stick with one issue. Mm-hmm. And eventually people are going to come along with you.
Yeah, it's like multitasking. Like, everybody thinks they can multitask, but when it comes down to it, you're just going to do a bunch of different things not nearly as well as you could if you focused on one.
You can do one job well, you can do two jobs half-assed, but the second you get into three or more, the quality drops to the point where it's not even worth it.
Yep. Yeah, so, and when you were saying of, what do you do? As far as I'm concerned, hold the line. Make your focus and stick with it. Don't let other people waver you from what you think is where you need to be. So exactly. For me, I focus on atheism and anti-theism. That's where I feel I do the best. That's where I feel I need to focus, and that's where I'm staying.
Same with me.
Yeah. And if other people have other causes that they feel need their full attention, then absolutely do that. 100% do that, because we need, we need people to do all the things. Just as, Dave and I have talked before about different approaches in terms of, debating or communicating our ideas. And we've said before that all approaches are necessary too. And so are people who want to take up different causes. It's just pick one and stick with it.
Yep. All right. I'm going to wrap this with two quick things for all of you who are paying attention for us at this point for tonight. Item one, I've said many an occasion, and I will continue to say it. I even told Dave. Dave will back me up on this one. I will not have somebody on my show who is dishonest. We need voices. We've said before, how many voices should there be? Cash even went ahead and told us. The answer to how many secular voices, how many atheist voices should we have? All the fuck of them.
Yes.
That means Johnson is 12 inches long.
You can say that, but if you're going to put your voice out there, be honest. Be honest to the truth. If you're wrong on an issue, and it can be shown that you're wrong on an issue, flip. Say, you know what? I was wrong. I was told wrong. I learned it wrong. Okay, I'm changing because I was wrong. Be honest. Please, above all else, be honest to the truth. And I use little t truth. I don't like using that term. Be honest to the facts for yourself, because that is the only way to grow and to have respect from people.
Say reality instead.
Yeah, remember, folks.
Truth. I hate that word.
The double down is a moving blackjack or a very bad chicken sandwich. That's it.
I think you can do it in backgammon too, can't you?
I don't know. I never got into that game.
No. And the second piece, and arguably the most important, and I'm pretty sure Dave will actually go ahead and back this one up hugely. You're not alone. There's nothing wrong with being able to say, I'm an atheist, and I am on this issue because I'm an atheist. But I'm sure he'll also say, if you're gonna go ahead and use that banner, you damn well better be right that you're using the right damn banner. If
I agree with that completely.
If you're pulling out the atheist banner just because, you've failed the first piece, which is to be honest to the facts.
You've lost the game.
Well, this is something for another show, maybe. But yeah, the banner has to be yours.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the atheism banner is religion's. It's not ours.
Right.
It's something they've applied to us. So, yeah.
Well, yes, no, but there's a whole
discussion to be had there.
Yes.
Yes.
But the piece that I'm trying to get to is you're not alone. If you need help, if you need guidance, if you need someone to explain a piece to you, we're here. We've got contact information. By all means, I will say for myself, I can't speak for everybody individually, but on behalf of HCTV, you've got a question, you want advice, bring it on. If I've taught my little one, the most important part is not necessarily to know all the answers, but it's to know how to go looking for the answers, to know where to go to find them. If I ain't got them, I'll be more than happy to try to find out and help you out to get to the right answer, because ultimately we want these things to be done right. And that means if you're right on an issue, it's because you're right on an issue, not because of the banner and not because of who you are, but because you've got the right information.
Oh, there's so much I want to say.
Psst, it helps if you get here at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
I was only 5 minutes late.
You were like an hour late, dude.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Holy daylight savings time. Holy shit, I completely forgot.
It hasn't hit us yet, has it?
Over here in
They
Europe,
get it in France before they get it here.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
that's
sorry. I was
That's
thinking
because
like
the
5
sun
minutes.
moves across the firmament. And it hits France first. That's probably
No,
daylight
what it,
savings
it
time.
has to do with the French not paying attention to us Americans like they're supposed to and following our lead.
Yeah. Plus, I need to double check to make sure that I've got the right.
We do not care what is happening in the rest of the world. Is not important.
And that's why we had to save your
Wait
ass
a
in
minute.
World War II.
Joseph, I thought you weren't in Quebec.
Yeah.
Et je parle avec un autre accent.
I am so glad he's speaking French, because I have no idea what he just said.
All I heard was a bunch of oopy gloopy, and then
Could be,
Yeah,
French
I gotta
could be
stop doing that.
Worst creepy French laugh ever there, Dave. I'm just saying.
it's one of his good things. So anyway, we got to wrap up over here.
Make another
Everybody-
joke, Dave. Come on, Dave.
Yeah, Dave's not here,
Le
man.
français, c'est
Make fun of
très
me
belle.
more, Dave.
I'm sitting back. I'm waiting for the hold my beer moment here.
Yeah. That's Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We hope that you've found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and found something worthwhile to consider for your own damned selves. Oh, this is going to be one of those nights, man.
You
Something
didn't even ask if I had anything to say.
I intentionally wanted to just have Dave just close, basically, and because we've all had the opportunity. If you had something worthwhile to say, you should have gone ahead and just said it. You know how this thing operates.
Too.
Then why didn't you? We've got the little texty thing over there. You could have got it.
I just have one. I just have one last point or
Fine.
issue that needs to be addressed,
Fine.
and yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off of something that I heard said at a conference about 3 years ago. That someone was mentioning that we have all this infighting, all these different factions, and things like that. Just because someone doesn't agree with you on 100% of the issues or isn't concentrated on your focus doesn't make them your enemy. And I'm sick and tired of seeing in the community all of this. Well, if you're friends with this person, then you can't be friends with me. And if you're on so-and-so's friends list, then I'm befriending you and blah, blah, blah. And
You don't match my programming.
And to quote, and to quote, I can't remember the speaker's name. I wish I could. But he said that with all the different infighting and different factions, that we're all going to be fighting on the way to the gas chambers if the theocrats have their way with us. And it's happened before, and it can happen again.
What was the thing I
More
saw?
important shit to worry about than be fighting over who's, supporting which pet cause this week. And that was the whole problem with Atheism Plus, if you don't agree to all of these stipulations on this banner that we're carrying for the Plus, then you're gutter trash and we don't want anything to do with you.
Well, these people are going to lose whatever cause they're fighting for anyways.
Actually, if I could dovetail onto that, something I saw earlier today, I shouldn't have been doing it, but I was watching a YouTube video by a guy who goes by the name of Noel Plum. He's from over in the UK. And he had been watching a live stream with certain people on the far left. And there was one of the people who was on there was a person who identifies themselves as an atheist. And one of the questions that came up to this person was, where do you see the atheism movement going? And what he started talking about was, well, we should have, equal distribution of people of color, LGBT, and all this stuff, and it should all be equal. It should all be homogenous, in terms of the same proportions and stuff like that. Noel brought up a very interesting point, though, and again, coming at it from north of the border, please feel free to kick me in the nuts if I'm wrong on this. One thing Noel mentioned after that was the United States has about, 10% or 15% of the population that identifies as atheists? Is that about right?
Well,
Something like that.
No.
Non-believers.
The United States has approximately 6% of the people in the United States openly identify as atheist.
Okay.
About 15 to somewhere between 15 and 18% say that they are unaffiliated with any religion.
Okay.
The nuns.
The nuns, yes.
Okay, so in terms of actual, actual atheists, you're looking at about 6% of the population of over 300 million people.
Yes.
What Noel said, and I actually do agree with him on this one. To these people who think that the atheism, quote unquote, movement, and I use that term loosely now, if you think it should be, properly proportioned, stuff like this, keep in mind, 6%. You don't have the numbers to even start looking at nitpicking and pruning.
Yep.
The thrust has to be to get people away from religion, to turn to get that 6% to turn to 10, to 15, to 20. Not just nuns, not just maybe not. No, you need 15 to 20 to 25% people saying I am an atheist. Then you can start nitpicking about putting the red curves on the right places. Basically, this person is filling out the details of the picture, but he hasn't painted the picture yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Good point.
And so, that's why when I get on a show like this, yes, we talk about being skeptical. We talk about, wanting to find the reasons behind why things work and stuff like that. But, for the most part, it's always centered around religion, because that's, to me, that seems to be the biggest, that's the cancer right now. We said before, you take religion away, people are then suddenly forced to deal with the fact that, hey, you know what? God is not an excuse for me to be this way. So, maybe I am an asshole. Maybe I have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to get people to think for themselves, basically.
Yeah.
That's it. They have to switch.
Yeah. but
Because if you're going to take away religion and you're not going to replace it with anything, well, they're just going to find another leader, protector, decider to follow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're seeing happen nowadays in the atheist movement, or again, sorry.
Well,
movement,
the SJW, but this is the dividing line. And I can't underline that enough. I know it's like it completely rips apart a lot of discussions going on right now. But I mean, I really think we have to realign the discussion along these lines. Are you making are you thinking for yourself, or is somebody else thinking for you?
Yeah, that's right. But again, you know, we do, as atheists, we need to get focused again back on what we were doing originally. And I don't necessarily just mean the show, but I just mean like atheist voices everywhere. You know, get back to work, for crying out loud.
Yep.
Get back to not stamp collecting.
That's all right.
Fair enough. All right. So,
which
with
is
that,
like everything.
Yeah. So with that, let's just go ahead and wrap up, because you'll forgive me. It's getting close to 2:30 a.m. local for me, and I'm intending to be at Center for Inquiry this morning for coffee. Because I'm
going to be on here for one more hour because, you know.
Yeah, you can go right ahead.
The show's still on for me.
That's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and say goodnight for everybody. Starting off, Dave, thank you very much for taking us up on this. I have you right now over in the show notes with your Facebook account, but is there any way that you'd like folks to be in touch with you, and any last pieces you want to go ahead and have that?
I think we've pretty much covered everything that you and I had discussed earlier. The only thing that I would add, Facebook is probably the best way to find me, but you can also find me on Twitter, and that's at Dave Foda. No dashes. What's a dash? No dots, dashes, or spaces.
Way of putting on a hat.
I thought he was going to say no dachshunds, but
I was expecting it was going to be no dash, and that's a whole other thing for later.
Well, yeah, we don't have any dash either.
Yeah, I'm all over that.
Drunk doxing.
Yeah, but Facebook and Twitter are probably the best ways to find me. So,
assuming that you haven't been locked out of your account again.
Well, I have not as of right now. And just let me say this too. Thank you for having me on the show, Shujin. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Like I said, I'm gratified that you asked for some opinions, and like I said, this is a little something that I thought that we could do to see where you can kind of flesh part of these all out for you. So thank you for your time. Joseph, good morning. It was nice to join us.
Well, thanks for having me. Managed to make it. Sorry for the
this is
daylight savings time oversight.
No, it's okay. I need to double check to make sure that I've actually got the right time UTC, which I haven't double checked recently because I forgot about it. But regardless, I'm glad you were able to make it for a little bit. But thank you,
actually,
man.
It's CET here, 7:22 CET.
I list the times by GMT, UTC, so that everybody else can figure from there, because that's standard.
I never know what GMT is. I always have to look up based on Eastern.
That's because you work on metric time. Joseph, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Pain in my ass. UnrenownedTech, you have yourself a good morning, and appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And remember, the Gostak distims the dashes.
Oh, good God.
No idea what that all is. Joey, thank you for your time, man. You have yourself a good morning. Usually that's how you start a show, not usually how you end a show. Okay, that's fine.
It's 2:30, damn it, I'm tired.
Waiting to get that extra hour back.
Well, we'll see about that. Even
Next
so,
week.
you have yourself a good...
Yep.
Brigid, thank you for your time. You have yourself a good morning, and try not to strangle anybody.
I'll do my best.
Especially considering what I tippity typed to you earlier. So keep that in mind. Heretic Woman, you have yourself a good morning. You got any conferences or something that's coming up soon?
Not any conferences, no. Just the weekly show. Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Be on the trailer park. Be on the trailerpark.com. All that. No, I've my travel budget is toast for quite a while. Yeah, because I did 3 big conferences this year. So yeah. I better. As much as I'd like to go to more, yeah.
You got to Patreon your show.
Toast.
Yeah.
Pricey.
They do, yeah. Although, I mean, Milwaukee was cool in that it was the first time I used Airbnb and Uber, so that was kind of a fun adventure.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what have you got coming up for your show for this week?
I'll let you know when I figure it out. It's one of those weeks.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And Dalan, of course, first off, just be safe. Don't hurt yourself with moving anything big, please. Thank you.
I've been doing good so far. For the really bad stuff, I've got friends that'll be helping me out as we load up the van on Tuesday. But yeah, this will be my last day with this desktop being here. Tomorrow, this desk is finally coming apart. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, the desk that I'm sitting at was a very large desk, and it was an absolute bitch to get it into the place I'm in now. And I vowed the day I set it up that when I left here, it was coming up in pieces. And I fully intend to fulfill that promise. I already have another desk ordered for my new place. It's a little bit smaller. And the desktop will actually be underneath so that I don't get any fan noise when I'm doing recordings for work and stuff.
Yay.
Just make sure you wear a back brace when you move that giant box of dildos out of the closet.
I don't need no back brace for that. I'm strong enough. Yeah. Every time doing that pompous sizing, it has worked for me.
Silicon doesn't weigh all that much, does it?
Depends how much.
No, the dildos he has are wooden.
Oh, I was gonna say, did he?
Dude, I'm not that old. Okay.
I was gonna suggest he went for the glass variety, but
Is that the dildo equivalent of Dutch clogs?
Okay, so that being said, would that mean that I am then culturally appropriating the Dutch?
Ooh.
It could be
Hence the term Dutch oven. Anyway.
Yeah, it could have been ceramic with gold and jade on it, in which case it would have been Egyptian.
Japanese.
No, they used rope.
That sound you heard, ladies and gentlemen, was this entire show crashing into the river.
Don't ask me why I know this. Don't ask me why. For those of you that want to know, yes, I am registered at Bad Dragon, so my birthday is coming up in March. Just keep that in mind for later. Thank you, Brigid. Anyway,
WTMI.
Okay, so Dalan, this also means that obviously there's not going to be any audio updates for the website for the next couple of weeks, very likely.
Let's see what happens. With any luck, I actually might get this beast back up and running by next week. We'll see what happens.
But thank you for all the work that you have done, of course, as always.
I do what I can when I can.
So for those of you that would like to subscribe to the audio podcast, by all means, take a swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. The subscription link is right over there. And yeah, just thank you for being helpful to us. If you'd like to send a message over to us, all of our contact information is over there, as well as the phone number for the voicemail line. And that is 859-HCTV-554, 859-428-8554. Now, somebody had mentioned that we do have a little bit of an echo or reverb kind of going on. That occasionally happens. That's what happens when you're dealing with free technology. You kind of have to put up with it. And me, fortunately, I have had to deal with this before with my DJ work and with ham radio stuff, so I do recognize it, and I'm usually not really fazed by it any longer. Although, if you want to try one of those voice jammer programs, have fun with that. Good luck. You go ahead and just read the phone book if you can find a phone book anymore and see how that does for you. But in any case, like I said, we got to get on out of here. On top of everything else, of course, if you'd like to support the show, you can fulfill over at Patreon. So it's patreon.com/HCTV. Yeah, believe it or not, I actually got HCTV for that one. Most places that I've gone looking at, I can't get HCTV. Damn it. Can't imagine why. Whatever. But no matter what, thank you for being part of all of this. And thank you for paying attention. And we hope that we can give you guys something more to consider, think about. I think that we're going to end up next week kind of dovetailing on some of what we talked about here. And we'll see where that takes us, as always. So, of course, until the next time we get together, everyone, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. If you are watching us live, please remember, Halloween season. Please be careful as you're driving at night if you're coming to a highway overpass. People like to drop stuff into traffic this time of season. Please be exceptionally careful. Things that are easy to find, like jack-o'-lanterns on people's stoops.
And
bombs.
For those of you who are listening who may be so inclined to do such a thing, just be aware that there was like 4 teenagers who were being prosecuted as adults because they threw a rock over an overpass, one of like 26 or 28 or some high number like that. And it went through the windshield. Now, pumpkins, while they tend to splatter upon impact, have a tendency to also go through windshields. And in doing so, it killed the man. So now that there is a child and a wife who are out a husband and father, the pumpkin that you chuck over the overpass may not take out a father, may take out the child or the mother or somebody you know.
Bottom line,
think before you do it.
Yeah, bottom line, don't. Seriously, just don't.
Yeah.
You know what really disturbs me is the fact that people have to say that to other people at all.
Well, hey, it's like the warning label on a chainsaw that tells you, warning, do not attempt to stop the chain with your hand.
Yeah, let's
warning may affect reality.
Yeah, let's just make this simple.
That's some good medicine at that point.
Let's just make this simple. Don't do something stupid. And I say that because there are now 5, 15, and 16-year-old kids who are facing capital murder charges. Think about that a minute. And then make sure that neither you nor anyone you know is liable to do something that catastrophically stupid. As always, before we go out, I say my goodnights for all of you. And I said my goodnights for my lady too, because 12 plus years on, I am still in love. Matsune Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.